Movies can go in millions of directions from conception to writing. Sometimes the result of this is asking, okay, what was that writing process like? Like, what? But other times this freedom leads to something fantastic. On other occasions, a writer will constrain themselves to an outlined genre they're going for, such as like a typical slasher or a thriller movie. These genres do have smaller subgenres, such as survival thrillers, for example, but generally they follow pretty similar molds. This sometimes limits the creativity and range of a script, as it has to hit certain points in the writer's mind. And then you have big company movies, which are under large magnifying glasses from the studio that typically, just normally any range of creativity is typically struck down. But today I wanted to focus just specifically on the second point, movies that constrain themselves to certain genres and really hold themselves too truly to what that genre is. I'm specifically going to be talking about survival thriller movies, which is a subgenre of thrillers. Now, I would like to point out that the lines can be a bit gray and they can cross between different subgenres of thrillers, but for this video, I'm basically using the most basic definition of survival thriller for the movies that I'm including. And I'm using these all to illustrate the point that sometimes working too hard to work a genre into a script can almost be a bigger detriment to a movie than making it a movie and then deciding the genre later. These survival thriller movies are typically more shallow in their range of characters, and they can have as few as 2 to 3 for the entire movie. The mold a lot of them fall into is establishing one suspenseful event and writing that through the entire film, with small deviations and plot twists along the way. The first example I'll use for this is the movie Hush, which is a Netflix film released in 2016. In the movie, a woman named Maddie, who is completely deaf, is terrorized by a serial killer. She can't call for help because the man cuts the power and there's no one nearby because her house is out in the middle of the woods. The movie continues to use these two characters, the man and Maddie, for the entire duration, which is about 90 minutes, a little less. Now, there were some fun turns, such as how the deaf woman would deviate the man long enough to make an escape, and how she may end up using her deafness to her advantage, but overall, most of the movie is attempt escape, fail, learn something small, attempt escape, fail, and repeat. I know the idea of the genre is to elicit excitement and thrill out of being in the situation, which I understand is, why one would watch these movies, and at certain points I do feel that it works. But it just sometimes feels groggy to me to go through all of these trials and errors and an hour and a half later be in practically the same predicament as you started in. This movie specifically lacks much of a plot outside of the woman's escape, as the only characters are Sarah, who was killed in the beginning, John, who was killed after a brief attempt to help Maddie, and Maddie's sister, who calls Maddie early in the movie, has no other purpose in the plot. But let's not put all of our eggs into just one movie, let's look at some other ones. Now let's talk about the movie Fall, released August 12th, 2022, literally 3 weeks before the fall. I mean, come on now. Now in this movie, a girl named Becky is struggling following the death of her husband, who died in a climbing accident a year before the events of the movie. Her friend Hunter, with the assist of Becky's dad, convinces her to live life and just go on another climbing journey to face her fears. Of course, this comes back to Haunted 2, as after they reach the top of a 2,000-foot tower, the ladder breaks and they become stranded at the top. And by about the 30-minute mark, we have our setting for the rest of the movie. Now, I'm not going to take shots at either of these movies, as I think they both have good ideas and fine premises. My problem is more with the genre itself, as it prompts these events, such as the bag with all the water on it landing conveniently out of reach, to occur to lengthen out a movie and give the viewer the thrill of the experience, but not really much substance. I feel like movies like this would work far better as short films, maybe between 40 minutes to an hour in length. A lot of the time with these feels like we're just sitting around waiting for something bad to happen, and because we only have a character or two, we know they can't die, so whatever happens is they're gonna be okay. The way the genre has built itself is that it wants us to feel thrills surrounding every action taken, but these actions become so numerous, and because of plot armor, they typically hold very little substance. Now, this analysis of these two movies falls into survival thriller. It's a genre, it's just the way they build the movies. They want to elicit excitement and make you feel thrill in the situations. That's just the way they are. And these two movies fall into that more so than maybe is necessary. The thing about what these movies really are, they're each feature length They're about an hour and a half. I know Fall's a little bit longer, but that movie had a longer setup than Hush did. And what these movies both do, they confine their, in Hush's case, one character, in Fall's case, two characters, to a very small space, and everything that happens throughout the movie is that space. And what you get, in my opinion, is just a movie that's trying too hard to be thrilling, that is just, there's not much substance to what I'm watching. And while I'm focusing specifically on these two movies and on the thriller genre, this happens, I feel like, a lot more in the movie industry than we realize, and this sort of brought light to it to me, to bringing a genre rather than an idea to the table. Bringing, say, I want to make this type of movie, and then figuring out the story. That, I feel like, is not an efficient way to make a movie. And I feel like it happens far more often today with big companies than we all realize. Now, I'm getting off on a tangent. Just the point of all this, to wrap it all up, is surrounding the genre of thrillers, and specifically survival thrillers, and how a writer constrains themselves to just that genre, it can really limit the story they're telling. I don't necessarily think these movies are all bad. I just think some try too hard to be good when the mold they're going for inherently limits their ability to do so. Wait a minute, I'm trying to be a YouTuber. What am I talking about?